I'm actually sad. I just discovered, I bought a pair of Hokas at the end of last season, a new pair. Always have two pairs, and it's my fault, but I left them in my car, and they're gone. And
They got stolen? Who's stealing your shoes? It's disgusting.
hello, and welcome to the Caddie Tales podcast. I'm Mark the Caddy, joined as always by my sidekick, colleague, friend, Nick. And we're excited to talk to you about how the game of life and the game of golf intersect so beautifully. And we can kind of transcend both arenas with the lessons we learn and grow as people and as golfers. Today, we're also joined by Matt Pfister, a local teacher who also happens to, in his spare time, work on the grounds crew at one of our courses here in this beautiful golf Kohler operation. Before we talk to him, though, I do want to give a shout out to Zero Restriction. Great rain gear. I know that we're in the kind of the rainy season in a lot of parts of the country as far as getting out and golfing, and so you need to be protected. Go to zerorestriction.com, type in the promo code BESTBALL20, get yourself a nice little discount, and hopefully set yourself up for a great season. Not only do they have rain gear, they have lots of other cool looking swags. So please go to zerorestriction.com. All right. Welcome, Nick. Welcome, Matt.
Thanks, bud. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
All right. Matt, like I said, works as a grounds crew member, but I'm now connected to him through Nick. Matt, if I'm correct, you and Nick go way back.
We went to high school together, and probably say Nick and I didn't become, I guess if we call it friends, until probably a few years back, where we had a bunch of mutual friends kind of all connecting together, and enjoy playing golf with Nick when he can get out.
Yeah. He, Nick's a challenging friend.
Thanks. Appreciate that, Mark.
No, you said just offline now that you have a group chat with him and he's kind of the punching bag, and it's like, I don't even know how this happens because we have a group caddy text with him and he's the punching bag there as well. So what is it about him?
I think it's his smiling face that represents it, but I will say 9 times out of 10,
I'll try to
stand up for Nick in our group chat most of the time, and then he throws a jab at me, and then it's game on after that.
Yeah. He occasionally comes up with some good one-liners, but mostly he's just like this gentle giant. I know that the last year or two he's probably been a disappointment because I know he doesn't get out much.
That is 100% true. I think it was just the other day that a buddy was talking about going golfing and talking about paying for his drinks and whatnot, and it still didn't seem like it mattered.
No, I know. Trying to set up going to coffee with the guy is like you gotta get through 8 layers of defense. So
Okay.
all right.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Okay, enough about that. You only pick on the people you like. You ignore the people you don't.
True story, Nick. True story.
We love you, Nick. Yeah. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
So, Matt, hey, I think it's kind of fun to have you on because this is a side of the operation that is vital and certainly golfers are very interested in. But, caddies and grounds crew do not interact as much as people would think. Let me tell you real quick before we get into some stuff with you. A few years ago on X, Twitter, something came up about like who is the unsung hero of the golf course, and it's like cart girls or, starters, rangers, whatever. And I realized there's this whole underworld of people who will fight for the superintendent and then by extension, the grounds crew to the death. And some of them found out they're like questioning me and whether or not I'm even a remotely worthy or good person because I said I don't really interact with the superintendent. I mean, it's a pretty big operation. He's a pretty big deal and I'm a pretty big small fish in the pond. And so he doesn't really seek me out or my approval, which is totally understandable. These people were horrified that we're not on Christmas card exchange lists or I'm buying them gifts, giving them chocolate and flowers or whatever. And what it told me, as I've learned more, I also spoke to a group of superintendents last year in Illinois. I've also seen some articles about like the suicide rates in the UK for superintendents of golf courses, that it's kind of a gig where maybe some people feel underappreciated or taken advantage of, struggle seeing the satisfaction. I know you're not a superintendent, but maybe you can give us some insight into that today.
I mean, I would definitely say it's the people that aren't seen on the course, and to be honest, it's kind of for a reason. I like doing it in the summertime gets away from my normal teaching job where I'm interacting a lot. And we kind of get told, don't interact with the guests that are coming through unless they're talking to us, sort of thing. But I know as far as the superintendents, assistant superintendent, it's definitely a high stress position, trying to maintain a top level course. And then it's also a higher turnover rate as well, too. In my now 15 years this upcoming summer being out there, I've seen 2 different superintendents. And actually, you guys have Jeff, who was my superintendent out at Whistling. But there's been a lot of turnover as far as the assistant position goes. And advancement is part of it, but also the stress level. I know a couple guys have gotten out completely of the gig because of that stress that is caused.
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting. I guess I just didn't know. I hadn't paid attention to it. One of the challenges is, like, I have so little understanding of what goes into making these courses look good. You know, it's like, I know that I lived in Michigan most of my life, and at Michigan State, I think they had a program for turf management that is, popular. But when I was in high school, I would have never known such a thing existed, never would have given it a second thought. And I think a lot of times you take things for granted if they're in good shape, which we work at a place that is, and you don't always think about the difficulties and the stress that comes along with it. So I found that fascinating. Hey, Nick, can you imagine, because we get to see like country club groups come through, 12, 16 guys, and we know the inherent challenges of even just herding them to the starters table because there's a different kind of level of entitlement.
Yeah.
Can you picture working for these guys where they're sending you emails and having opinions and they're spending $1,000 a month at some of these places on their memberships? Does that sound enticing to you?
Yeah, no, not at all. I get what you're talking about, where the superintendent job can be very stressful. I would not want to deal with those kind of types every single day. But I think it would be nice if almost like we did their job for like a week, maybe like worked with them or something like that. I feel like that'd be maybe a good idea because then we'd have a better idea of what they're doing and stuff like that.
Well, and that really leads into what I want to ask Matt about here. So, Matt, you get to be out there on the course. You see the caddies, you see the golfers, but let's specifically think about the caddy. What are some things you want us to know about what you'd like us to do better out there to help maintain the golf course? Are there some trends, some things where you're like, man, caddies and golfers just need to do a better job with this?
Well, I'm assuming you guys as caddies, ball marks is always the biggest thing. That part of my role, oftentimes I'm cutting greens and we walk mow our greens. And one of our first things that we're doing is fixing any ball marks that we see out there. So obviously the ease to things is when you hit a ball, great shot, and then you fix your ball mark after that. I know a lot of guys that get particular about the rakes, that they're all supposed to face in the same direction. I would say my biggest thing is wherever you found it, go put it back there. Because there's a kind of a rhyme and reason when we start our morning of spreading out the rakes, trying to make sure that they're by staircases, at least as far as Black Wolf goes. They are kind of spaced out evenly from one to the next. And when we see like 2 or 3 rakes in the same exact spot, it's like, come on, you can walk back the 10, 15 yards, kind of go put it back where you found it.
Right. One of our courses that we caddy doesn't have as high a percentage of caddies being used. And I am somewhat amazed at the end of a day, let's say I'm out there for a late second loop of the day, how many ball marks there are on the green. I mean, these are high-class places, and, I spend a lot of time on golf Twitter. We have a following through this podcast. I would say that a vast percentage of that demographic is like absolute golf etiquette, fix every ball mark, knows how the rake should be, knows how to rake a bunker, all that stuff, and would be surprised to know how many golfers just don't take care of the course or don't care.
No, you can definitely tell the higher traffic days just based on the number of ball marks that are kind of left behind that then we need to try to fix up. But I'll say too, depending on the time of year, like later on in the golf season when it's not, the sun's not coming up and you're doing the first hole, it's like good luck trying to fix these ball marks that are out there. Or earlier in the season, same thing when the sun's not up, because we start at 5 a.m. for our work, and it's like, well, I do my best as far as fixing them, but you're always missing. And then it kind of leads just to a not as great of an experience for the golfer where they're potentially complaining about ball marks. And so It's kind of a full
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I get why our leadership would care. We get a lot of reminders about it through the year.
A lot. Yeah.
And I'm like on management side with that, like people are paying a lot of money and they expect a high quality course. I mean, it is in comparison, I'm sure, to the local muni and all that. It's good, but we want to strive for it being top notch and excellent all the time. And so we're constantly reminded, fix the ball marks. So that's a good one to focus on. Is if we got any listeners out there, maybe pay attention to that and help out your grounds crew, help out those behind you. Make sure you're taking care of that because it's an important part of the overall satisfaction for sure. This is a little inside baseball. Don't get yourself into trouble here. But I'm curious, last year, and I know why at Whistling Straits this is the case. The rough was allowed to grow out pretty thick, okay? And it got tough towards the end of the year. Like, finding golf balls, there was one day I was with a really good golfer. We knew his ball hadn't gone super errant or whatever. It was a few feet off of, like, the fairway and the green. And we're standing over it for minutes, a foot away from it. And we couldn't find it in the rough. And it's like, how crazy. What's the rationale? Like, do you guys sit there deviously and be like, let's make this harder? Let's see some people really be miserable today or complain? Or is it like, hey, the grass needs to grow to a certain level to be healthy or whatever?
No, game's hard enough. We don't intend to make it any harder ourselves. But I remember Nick talking about this last year and kind of complaining about how long the rough was. I mean, a lot of it had to do with how much rain we got in a short period of time. At Black Wolf, we had a lot of flooding, and I've never seen it in my 15 years that the course was actually shut down, the river course.
Yeah.
You had like holes on the river course shut down, didn't you?
Shut down for like 3 or 4 days just because of the water rushing over, kind of the way the course is set up. But I mean, that's the biggest reason we're not cutting rough is due to the weather. Too much rain, it's too wet, and we're not getting out there and mowing for that reason. But otherwise, as far as a typical like rough cutting schedule for us, depending on kind of the crew and what's available for the week, we're cutting at least twice a week with the rough. So, and that's usually like a Monday and a Friday kind of concept going on for ourselves. So yeah, definitely by Thursday, it's like, yeah, you guys could probably give this a good cut.
Yeah, it's like I picture you guys like, let's make them miserable. Let's see the scores in the East. No, I know that's not the case, and
let's make the greens faster. Yeah,
exactly. Right. And so, is there a common theme where the players come off the course and be like, is there a particular aspect of the course related to the grounds where they're like, man, that was way harder than back home, or not as hard as I thought for being a top 100 course?
I would definitely say green speed. I mean, I've heard Black Wolf is faster than Whistling. I've played both myself too, and would probably agree to that. So I would definitely say the green speed is one of the bigger ones that guys come in, ladies come in for their golf for the day, and they're like, wow, those greens are a lot faster, or you don't really see some of the turns that are happening out there. It's like, or kind of somewhat unfair. You hit a good shot into the green, and all of a sudden it rolls off. And that probably being the bigger complaint to the golf course setup. As far as ease goes, I mean, there's nothing easy about.
No, I mean, these are just hard courses.
Yeah.
But I think that over where you're working on our Black Wolf courses, the greens are just difficult. But I mean, I think the vast majority of people love it, and they expect that when they're coming to some of these elite places. They don't want it to be like the course that they play at home or whatever. But there's no doubt that there's times where when the scores are racking up that maybe people would be a little bit frustrated. For the caddies, I know that the challenge of just rough is just that, like, we want to get people through a loop as quickly as possible, and if you're searching for balls, it adds to it. And usually in April and May, the loops are shorter. That's one of the things that I've always said. One of the nice things about that period of year when the weather's not super great all the time is that the loops are shorter, at least. And when the rough is thick, that's just a little bit harder because, as you know, or you might guess, some of our players miss fairways. And so, it can be tough. You know what I'm always amazed by? So we, on Whistling Straits, there's over 1,000 bunkers. ton over at Black Wolf too, but the operation always requires that there's people out there working in the bunkers. And I have players who are terrified to hit sometimes because they're like, am I going to kill this guy? Are they paying attention? Like, what are the grounds crew people thinking when they're in the bunker and there's just players there like ready to hit? Are they scared? Do they just become immune to it or what?
Well, it's like, you better pay attention. And it's your own fault if you're not paying attention, because you know that there's there's golfers playing as you're out there working. But I mean, for me personally, I'm usually not sticking around for the afternoon. As far as work goes, I don't really do that much anymore. But yeah, if you better have your head on a swivel, know who's hitting. There's certain spots like on our course where as we're driving, you kind of pause, look to see if there's golfers coming. Thankfully, I haven't had any ball whiz by me yet. I'm knock on wood to that idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, as people are out there working, that's kind of on you to be paying attention.
Yeah. No, like I'm now like, we'll have players, you know, a lot of times you're far away, you know, they're out in a bunker 180, 200 yards away on a par 5 or something, and they're just raking, and players, I'm like, oh, they're built for contact, just to try to like lighten the mood or whatever, because I'm like, you know, we gotta go, and they gotta work. I always think one of the cool things about the maintenance gig though is these people out on the holes get a built-in break every few minutes because they gotta pause and wait for the golfers to come through. Is that as actually as much a perk as it looks like to me?
I think that'd be annoying. You gotta stop
Nick,
what you're doing.
Yeah, Nick, you think it would be annoying because you just love to work so hard and so continuously.
There's
Okay.
yeah, no, I mean, that's kind of the nice thing about if you stick around for the afternoon. It's real low key. Usually you're just doing prep jobs to make the course look a little extra nice. But yeah, for sure, depending on how busy the course is, you got one group coming after the next group, and you can't really get much work done, but yet you're getting paid for it.
Yeah, right. Sounds perfect.
Yeah,
and I just always thought, man, that's cool. They get to like stand there and chit chat while all the guys, like, they probably love slow golfers. Yeah. As opposed to us. Hey, you get to see caddies come through every day. You get to see them at least from afar. What's the working relationship with the caddies like for you, or what's the appreciation level? Because I know we don't work necessarily together, but we certainly interact or see each other. How do you feel about the caddies?
I think you kind of alluded to it earlier, where there's really no crossing paths for our day that's going on. And at least for us at Black Wolf, the caddies, they hang out in the back of the parking lot. Not an ideal setup by any means. And I really only see them kind of when I'm finished for the day. We got a big hill that we go up, and then we drive past. And no offense, they don't have always the most happiest look on their face. And
I think the Black Wolf caddies are often the grizzled veterans, you know, the guys who've graduated from carrying bags, and they're kind of the guys that the people on golf Twitter picture when they're picturing caddies who've lived kind of hard and stuff. Yeah,
they're also probably trying to dodge a double, like when you see them. So that's
dodge a double loop, right? Yeah,
that's true. If I'm seeing them in the morning, it's their first round, and maybe they're getting out twice as far as the day goes. But yeah, there's really not much interaction that happens between us, and you kind of just go about your day. Now, as far as appreciation goes, I mean, I had a caddy myself, played at Sand Valley, and I just know, and talking with Nick too, like, you guys are out there in all sorts of weather. Doesn't make a difference, and you're the ones doing the grunt work. As far as carrying people's bags, double bagging it, trying to keep up with your two golfers that you got going on. So as far as appreciation level, I appreciate that aspect that you guys bring, because it makes the experience for the golfers better, and hopefully they're coming back.
Right. You know, and I think we appreciate the work of the grounds crew. I mean, you get to walk this place that's like paradise on a regular basis. And like I said, it's hard to fathom all that goes into it, because that's not my background, and you take it for granted sometimes. So like, that's one thing that I want to be more intentional about, is just appreciating the hard work that goes into the whole operation. Because there's just a lot of people working hard, and we're all in our own little silos, but certainly it takes a village to make a bucket list kind of day for people. Now, you had a caddy before, you mentioned. What did Nick was telling me? It maybe wasn't the highlight experience that you were hoping for, or it was a little more challenging.
It was not a, I would say, positive experience. Glad I got a caddy because the day we played, it was like upper 90s, hot and humid, and I'm like thinking to myself, there's a couple guys in our group that walk themselves. I'm like, I'm glad I'm not you, sort of. Perspective, I was appreciative, but unfortunately my caddy got told to begin with he had a bum foot, and he was always a good 20 yards plus behind, kind of waiting at my ball for him to get there with my club. And he was a veteran caddy compared to some of the other guys in our group, had younger high school age kids, and unfortunately I was having to pay more for as great of an experience compared to what my other guys were. And these young kids, they stepped up big time, gave reads to me, helped me out, some sort of thing. But yeah, that was my one experience of getting a caddy, and unfortunately it wasn't the most positive experience.
So a foot, that's a challenge. We kind of need those feet. And I'm actually sad. I just discovered, I bought a pair of Hoka's at the end of last season, a new pair. Always have two pairs, and it's my fault, but I left them in my car, and they're gone. And
they got stolen? Who's stealing your shoes? It's disgusting.
These were brand new Hoka's.
Okay,
those are 100. Those are expensive. Times. Those are expensive shoes. But I'm picturing a bum foot. Like we pay a lot of money on shoes because feet are the most important part, And you could have a hurt shoulder and still kind of fake your way through or whatever. But if you can't walk, it's a tough job.
Yeah, you can't keep up.
Yeah, it's tough. And there's certainly days where it's hard to keep up just because if you're on a second loop or it's whatever. There's all kinds of things that go into it. Sometimes you're caddying for some 62-year-old guy who's, your typical business owner, CEO, who hasn't slowed down and has been wound tight since he came out of the womb and is playing a round of golf in 2 hours and still complaining it's too slow. Those guys are hard to keep up with. Yeah. But anyways, that I heard that, and it's like, one of the challenges as a caddy is sometimes you want to play hurt because if you don't work, you don't get paid. Yeah. And yet you got to also say, but this person who's coming to the course is paying a lot of money for a good experience. So you got to be mindful of that for sure. That's one thing that we're all trying to do is enhance the guest experience. And I know we work for a company at these golf courses for whom that is a very serious thing. And sometimes you can kind of make light of it or when you're in your cynical mood or whatever. But think about it, man. We've got people right now today, somewhere in America, there's 4 guys in a group text making fun of their Nick and talking about coming to our place in August. And they've got all these visions about it being just this absolutely special time, this bucket list thing. They're texting about it every day. They're super excited. It is our responsibility to do our part to have them show up and have the best day possible. So I know that the grounds crew absolutely is vital in making that happen. You know what my most memorable grounds thing where I really was like, I don't even know how they do this, but the Ryder Cup year, they had, I think, been keeping the greens maybe at Whistling a little longer or whatever to protect them. At least that's what I was told. I'm not even sure that I understand it all. But then all of a sudden, the few days before the guys came in for their practice rounds, it was like putting on a sheet of ice, and the ball, just flying. And I remember being out there with multiple caddies who were all of a sudden like, I can't read the green right now because this speed has gone up by 50% since last week, and so things like that kind of blow my mind how you guys can do that.
I'm guessing that they probably wanted it to grow, have the grass growing kind of nice, and then when it got close to that tournament time, cutting down to the speed that they were looking for. I know when we had the Women's U.S. Open a number of years ago, that we would put mesh netting in landing zones to golfers from hitting in those spots, and I'm guessing they do that.
The tee box is big.
Yeah. So, one thing that I would love to see a debate. So sometimes our tee boxes aren't even everywhere. And I think people are like, I think it's intentional in spots, but that's one where I would love to see the superintendent and a ornery guest talk about that. Like I said, I don't wish that job. I used to be in work where I'd get emails of complaint every single day, and you couldn't please people no matter how hard you tried, no matter how right you were. In a lot of cases, you got angry emails, complaining emails every single day. Probably the freedom that comes from caddying and not having, I mean, people might complain on their car ride home about us as caddies, but we don't hear it, and we don't,
Sure.
Man, oh man, I certainly, people in leadership roles like that, I have great empathy for, and it'd be interesting to see them discuss. Hey, who has the harder job? Let's close with that. Caddies or the maintenance staff? Who grinds harder?
As much as I'd like to say the ground crew, it's definitely not us. We're sitting on mowers for the most part as far as our job goes, cutting grass aimlessly, kind of making lines back and forth, walk mowing. Usually it's not hot by the time we're done kind of for the morning job. So I will give it up to the caddies, tip my cap to you on that one, and say it's definitely you guys with more of that. To me, it's the interaction that you need to enhance for somebody else. We can cut the grass great, or it's long or whatever else, and you kind of pump it up as far as the experience for the golfer.
And, I respect, though, you guys are out there super early. One of the cool things is, though, occasionally, this has happened a few times, there will be like a single golfer who's going to be the first loop of the day off. And a lot of times I end up getting with that golfer. Either I volunteer or they ask me to do it because I'm more comfortable being just one-on-one than some of the other caddies are. And I love it because usually they tip pretty well, so it's like caddying for two and you're only with one. But, I've gotten through the Whistling Straits in 2.5 hours before. And last year, once I beat like the grounds crew to certain, they were like had to rush up and put the flag in for us. And I just felt like a boss, and it just felt good. I felt great. But, you see how early they are out there getting things done, because the loop starts before 7 a.m. and you're racing to catch up to them. You realize they've been out mowing since sunlight. So it's quite a impressive thing what you guys do. These are beautiful places, absolute paradise. I joked the other day on my Twitter that I wasn't going to enter the transfer portal. You're seeing all that with college basketball, but I'm like, why would you if you're already in paradise? Not only do we have this beautiful lake that's out there to help us, but what you guys carve out and make for us every day is just an awesome thing. So thank you very much for the work you do. You looking forward for school ending and getting back out there,
actually,
Matt?
My boss texted me yesterday and asked kind of when I was coming back as far as time frame goes, and I said I'm hoping to get out there some weekends in May, but school for me ends May 31st, and I told him I'll be there June 2nd.
Awesome.
Nice. Cool.
All right, Matt, my pledge to you. Hey, do you guys get golf benefits
we
too,
do.
like we do, right?
And I'm only guessing you're going to lead this into a Nick thing right now.
Yes, my pledge to you is that I will get him out there with you this year. I will drive the cart for him. I'll carry his bag if I have to. I will be there.
Right.
I don't know these other friend groups, but I empathize with you, and so I'm there for you guys. I occasionally Nick will screenshot some of your group text stuff to me, and I tried to get him out for the tournament
March
with you
Madness.
guys. Yeah, but I know that was a disappointment. But we'll get him out there golfing with you, and it'll be
Well, I
it'll
look
be a
forward to
special
our
time.
paths crossing, and Nick is joining us for a round of golf out at Kohler courses. It's free. Just remember that. It's free.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah. No, that's right. Early in the season, Nick, late in the season, early, those are the best times for it. So we'll get it set up. I want you, Nick's friends out there, you guys, message me on Twitter if you need to, look me up, and we'll make it happen. All right. But until then, hey, friends out there, we're thankful for you guys listening. Check out our friends at bestball at bestball.com. Great to follow for you guys in the golf world. Can pick up some swag there and get their their weekly newsletter and learn all about what's going on with them. So we're thankful for our partnership in this podcast with them. And you can check out caddietales.co, some new swag going up, and just an opportunity for me to continue telling this story. It's the most important truth that I know in life, and that is that no matter how bad it seems, no matter how many the misses, no matter how many the shanks, no matter how deep the bunker, there is always on this side of the ground a next shot full of hope and opportunity. So take yours.